Broken heart. On the day I turned 70, the people I loved most, the children I raised with my own hands, dragged me to the river and tried to drown me. But what happened next turned my survival into their greatest nightmare. The icy water swallowed me whole. My arms flailed, my lungs burned, and I tried to scream. But all that came out were bubbles rising to the surface. I saw the dark silhouettes of my daughter and my 2 sons standing on the riverbank, watching me sink. Their faces weren't filled with fear or sorrow. No, they were filled with cold determination, as if they had finally succeeded in what they had always wanted, to drown me. I thought it was my last breath, my last birthday, my last day on earth. But then, something happened in that river. Something they never expected. And that was when their nightmare truly began. Now let me take you back to the beginning. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My 70th birthday. 7 decades of laughter, pain, lessons, and survival. I woke up that morning feeling thankful. My body was not as strong as before, but my heart was full. My small house smelled of fresh bread I had baked the night before. The sun shone gently through my curtains, casting golden light on the walls. I whispered a prayer of gratitude for life, for breath, for another chance to see the world. My children had promised me a big gathering that day. They said it would be unforgettable. And indeed, it turned out unforgettable, but not in the way I thought. The house was busy that afternoon. Neighbors came around early, bringing food and drinks. Old friends hugged me tightly, their eyes misty with memories. Some of them said, 70 years, Elizabeth. You look strong. Others laughed and teased. You must tell us the secret to living this long. I smiled, but deep inside, I couldn't shake off a strange feeling. You know that quiet voice that whispers in your heart when danger is near? I had that feeling, but I brushed it aside. After all, it was my special day. What could possibly go wrong when surrounded by family? When my daughter, Grace, arrived, she hugged me warmly. Her perfume filled my nose, but her hug felt stiff. My sons, Daniel and Mark, came next. They carried large boxes of gifts and wore wide smiles, but their eyes didn't smile with their lips. Mother, Daniel said, today is about you. We will make sure it's the best birthday you ever had. I believed him. Oh, how foolish I was. The party was lively. Children ran around with balloons. Laughter filled the air. A cake taller than any I had ever seen stood proudly on the table. As I cut the cake, people clapped and cheered. My heart felt warm, like maybe all the years of sacrifice, working 2 jobs to raise them, going hungry so they could eat, giving them everything I had finally been worth it. But little did I know, behind their smiles, my own children were planning the darkest betrayal a mother could ever face. After the cake was cut, Grace leaned close to me. Mama, she whispered, we have a surprise for you. A very special one. But we need to go to the river together. The river. A place I had not visited in years. It was where their father used to take us for picnics before he passed away. The thought brought back sweet memories, so I agreed. We left the crowd behind, and the 4 of us walked toward the river. The evening sun painted the sky orange, and the cool breeze brushed against my cheeks. It felt peaceful. Too peaceful. When we got there, Daniel said, "Close your eyes, Mama. We want you to feel the surprise." I chuckled like a little child. All right, I trust you. But trust is a dangerous thing when placed in the wrong hands. Suddenly, I felt their hands on me. Not gentle. Not loving. Strong, forceful hands pushing me forward. My eyes shot open in shock, but it was too late. My feet slipped on the wet ground. I screamed, but the sound was cut short as the river swallowed me. The cold hit me like knives stabbing into my chest. I thrashed, trying to rise, trying to breathe. Through the blur of water, I saw their shadows above me. My own children, watching, not moving, not helping. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Was this my reward for 70 years of love and sacrifice? To be killed by the ones I gave life to? But fate had other plans. And as my strength faded in the depths of the river, something happened. Something my children would regret forever. At the bottom of the river, where I thought my life was ending, I felt something brush against my arm. For a moment, I thought it was death pulling me away. But no, it was a thick branch from a fallen tree, stuck beneath the surface. With the last strength I had, I clutched it. My fingers, old and weak, burned with pain as I gripped, but my will to live was stronger. I pulled myself upward, gasping, my head breaking through the surface. My lungs fought for air like a drowning bird. I coughed, spit out water, and blinked through the blur. But when my eyes found the riverbank, I froze. There they were, Grace, Daniel, and Mark, standing like statues. They didn't run to help me. They didn't cry out in relief. Instead, their faces hardened into masks of anger. Daniel even cursed under his breath. "She survived," Grace muttered, her voice low but sharp like a knife. Survived? My own daughter sounded disappointed that I was alive. For a second, we just stared at each other. Me clinging to the branch, them standing still. The evening sun casting long shadows behind them. I could feel my heart crack deeper than it had in all my 70 years. I realized then, their plan was not just to scare me. They truly wanted me gone. Why? I croaked, though the river water still choked my throat. Why would my children do this to me? Mark's jaw clenched. His voice was cold, heavy with bitterness. "You'll never understand, Mother. You've lived long enough. Too long. It's our time now." Their words hit me harder than the water ever could. My knees trembled beneath the surface, though the current tried to drag me away. Was my life so worthless to them? Did they see me as nothing but a burden? I wanted to cry, but tears mixed with river water meant nothing. I knew then. I could not show weakness. If they wanted me gone, then my survival had to be my shield. Slowly, painfully, I dragged myself to the shore. My fingers dug into the muddy earth. My body shook from cold, but I forced myself up, my dress soaked and clinging to me like heavy chains. The silence was unbearable. Then Daniel spoke. "You weren't supposed to make it out, Mother." Something in me snapped. I wasn't just a weak old woman. I was their mother. The same woman who carried them in her womb, fed them when I had nothing, shielded them when their father's death nearly destroyed us. And this was how they repaid me? I raised my voice, trembling yet firm. "If you think I will lie down and die for you, you don't know the woman who raised you." For a moment, I saw something flicker in Grace's eyes. Was it guilt? Regret? But then she turned away, cold again, her lips pressed tight. The walk back from the river was heavy. The party had ended, and the guests were gone. Neighbors waved goodbye, smiling, unaware of the storm brewing in my house. No one knew that behind our walls, betrayal was thick in the air. That night, I lay awake in my bed, my body aching, my mind racing. Questions stabbed at me. Why did they want me gone? Was it money? Property? Did they think my death would free them of responsibility? I remembered the way Mark's words dripped with envy. "It's our time now." I thought of Grace's bitterness. I thought of Daniel's eyes, empty of love. My heart refused to believe it, but the truth was louder than my denial. My children wanted my death, but they had failed. And now I had a choice. Sit quietly and wait for their next attempt, or prepare. The next morning, I cooked breakfast like nothing had happened. I served them eggs and bread. My hands steady though my soul trembled. They sat at the table, pretending as if the river incident had never happened. But every time our eyes met, silence screamed louder than words. I noticed something new. They were watching me closely. Watching every move, every bite, every step. That day Grace suggested, "Mama, why don't you rest? We'll take care of everything now." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes betrayed her. She wanted me weak. She wanted me to give in. I smiled faintly and said, "Yes, child. You should take care of your mother." But deep down I made a vow. I would not be their victim. The following days were strange. They acted kinder than usual, bringing me tea, offering to do chores, even buying me new clothes. But the kindness felt poisoned. Their laughter was too loud, their smiles too wide. I began to sense that they were planning again. Something darker. And I was right. One evening, I heard whispers outside my room. Their voices were low, but clear enough. "We need to try again," Mark hissed. "If she tells anyone, we're finished." Grace answered, "This time no mistakes. We do it together." My blood ran cold. They weren't done. They would come again. But what they didn't know was this. I was ready. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed alert, praying, thinking, planning. My survival had already shaken them. Now I would turn their own game against them. But just as I thought I had control, something terrifying happened. In the middle of the night, I heard the creak of my door. The shadows of 3 figures slipped into my room. And in their hands, something sharp glistened under the moonlight. The door creaked louder as they slipped in. I froze under my blanket, my heart pounding so hard I thought they could hear it. The moonlight streamed through the window, silver and cold. And I saw it, 3 shadows, my own children, moving like predators in my room. In Mark's hand, a long kitchen knife glimmered. Grace held a small bottle. Daniel's hands were empty but clenched like fists ready to strike. I closed my eyes for a heartbeat, whispering a prayer. Then I opened them again, clear and steady. This was my moment. If I panicked, I was dead. If I acted weak, I was dead. Mark stepped closer. "Mother," he whispered, his voice almost gentle. "Stop fighting us. We just want what's ours. This will be quick." My throat tightened. "What's yours?" I asked, my voice calm though my heart thundered. Grace hissed, "The house. The land. The money. You've lived long enough. Father is gone. You're just in the way." The knife glinted closer. I shifted slowly, inching my hand under my pillow where I had hidden a heavy wooden cross. The one their father gave me before he died. They didn't know it was there. "You think killing me will make you free?" I said, my voice trembling but rising. "You think the world will bless you for betraying your mother?" For a moment, their steps faltered. The words cut them deeper than any blade. But then Daniel snarled. "Enough talking. Do it." Mark lunged forward. With a burst of strength I didn't know I still had, I swung the wooden cross from under the pillow. It struck his wrist with a crack. The knife clattered to the floor. Mark screamed, clutching his arm. Grace gasped and dropped the bottle. Daniel leapt toward me, but I rolled off the bed. My body aching yet moving like fire had entered my veins. The room erupted into chaos. Grace grabbed at my dress, but I shoved her back with a strength born from pure survival. Daniel tried to block the door, but I snatched the fallen bottle from the floor and hurled it at him. It shattered, liquid spraying across his shirt. He cursed, slipping on the wet floor. I darted toward the door, but Mark grabbed my ankle. I kicked hard, my heel striking his shoulder. He howled and let go. I burst into the hallway, my breath ragged, my heart roaring. The house was dark, silent, like the world outside didn't exist. I stumbled into the kitchen, searching, thinking. I needed something. Anything. To protect myself. My hands landed on the iron kettle sitting on the stove. Heavy. Hot. Perfect. I heard their footsteps behind me. Their voices low, angry, unrecognizable. "She's crazy," Grace hissed. "We can't let her run. She's ruining everything," Daniel growled. I gripped the kettle, my fingers trembling but ready. I wasn't just an old woman anymore. I was a mother fighting for her life. As they entered the kitchen, I turned to face them, the kettle raised. "Come closer," I said, my voice steady now. "And you'll regret it." For a moment, they hesitated. They weren't used to seeing me like this, strong, defiant, dangerous. But then Mark lunged again. I swung the kettle. It connected with his shoulder with a dull thud. He screamed, stumbling backward into Grace, who yelped as the two of them crashed into the table. Daniel cursed, his face twisted with rage. "You're going to pay for this," he shouted. And then in the chaos, I heard it, sirens. Loud. Getting closer. Grace's eyes widened. The neighbors, someone called the police. Daniel's face drained of color. Mark groaned on the floor. My heart raced with a different kind of fear. If the police arrived now, what would they believe? 3 grown children screaming, and an old woman holding a kettle like a weapon? Would they think I was the villain? The sirens grew louder, blaring through the night. Grace hissed, "We can't let her talk to them." She grabbed something from the counter, a rolling pin, and advanced toward me. I backed up, my heel brushing the edge of the back door. Outside was the night, the yard, the dark woods beyond. My choice came fast and hard. Stay in the house and risk everything. Or escape into the dark where at least I had a chance. The sirens wailed right outside now. Red and blue lights flashed through the kitchen window. Grace raised the rolling pin high. Daniel reached for me again. And with a final breath, I did the only thing I could. I threw open the back door and ran straight into the darkness. The night air hit me like ice as I bolted out the back door. My bare feet slapped against the cold earth, my soaked nightgown clinging to me. My chest burned, but I didn't stop. Behind me, I heard their angry voices and the crash of footsteps as they scrambled to follow. The red and blue flashes of police lights cut across the yard. The sirens screamed louder, then faded into silence as the cars came to a stop. I darted into the trees behind the house, the branches scratching my arms, the roots tripping my feet. My breath came ragged, but I pushed forward, deeper into the shadows. I stopped only when I could no longer hear their footsteps. Leaning against a tree, I gasped for air, my heart drumming like a war beat. For a moment, I felt safe. But then, through the thin night air, I heard Daniel's voice. She ran into the woods. Find her before they do. My blood ran cold. They were still hunting me, even with the police outside. I crouched low, hiding in the bushes. Through the leaves, I saw officers knocking at my front door. Grace's voice floated out, sweet as honey, dripping with lies. Oh, officers. We were so worried. Our mother is old and confused. She gets these episodes. She ran off into the night shouting nonsense. I covered my mouth to keep from crying out. They were painting me as crazy. The perfect trap. If the police believed them, no one would ever listen to my side of the story. One officer frowned. Are you sure she's not in danger? Grace's fake sob echoed. Please, just help us bring her back safely. We love her. Love her. My stomach twisted. I wanted to step out of the shadows, scream the truth, show them the bruises and the knife marks on the floor. But my children's words echoed in my ears. If she tells anyone, we're finished. They would do anything to silence me. Anything. So I stayed hidden. As the police spread out with flashlights, I moved deeper into the woods. Every step hurt, but each step was a choice. A choice to live. Hours passed. The night grew colder. My body ached. My mind screamed for rest, but I couldn't stop. Not yet. Finally, I stumbled upon an old abandoned barn. Its wooden door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, it smelled of dust and rot, but it was shelter. I collapsed on the hay-strewn floor, shivering, whispering prayers into the silence. For the first time that night, I let the tears fall. Tears for the children I thought I had. Tears for the mother's love they had destroyed. Tears for the fight still ahead of me. But even as I cried, a fire lit inside me. They thought I was weak. They thought I would vanish into the night, forgotten. But I was still alive. And as long as I was alive, their nightmare had only begun. The next morning, I awoke to the sound of footsteps crunching on dry leaves outside the barn. My heart leapt into my throat. Police? A kind stranger? Or worse, my children? I held my breath as the barn door creaked open. Light spilled inside, blinding me for a moment. And then I saw him. It wasn't Daniel. It wasn't Mark. It wasn't Grace. It was a man I hadn't seen in over 40 years. His face was older now, lined with time, but I knew those eyes anywhere. Elizabeth, he whispered. My jaw dropped. My heart stopped. It was Thomas, my first love. The man I lost before I ever married their father. And behind him, his voice trembling, he said words that made my blood freeze. They know you're here. And they're coming. For a moment, I couldn't move. My heart beat so fast it felt like the ground beneath me shook. Thomas, the man I once loved, the man I thought I had lost forever, was standing before me, right here in this abandoned barn. His hair was gray now, his hands rough, but his eyes still held the same fire from when we were young. Thomas, I whispered, my throat tight. He stepped closer, his face full of worry. Elizabeth, there's no time. Your children, they were asking about you in the village. They're searching these woods. We have to move. Tears burned my eyes. Part of me wanted to collapse into his arms, to remember the girl I once was. But there was no time for that. My children weren't just looking for me. They wanted me silenced. Forever. I grabbed his arm, trembling. They tried to drown me, Thomas. My own children. They want me gone. His jaw tightened. Then let's make sure they fail again. We slipped out of the barn and moved deeper into the woods. Thomas led me through winding paths only he seemed to know. His farm, he explained quickly, was just beyond the hill. A safe place, at least for the night. But safe was a word that no longer existed in my world. As we walked, the past came rushing back. Thomas and I had once planned to marry. But life had pulled us apart. Family obligations, choices made too quickly, a path I could never undo. I married their father, raised a family, and believed that was my fate. Yet here he was, walking beside me in my darkest hour, like destiny had circled back. But before I could sink into memory, a voice cut through the trees. "Mother." I froze. It was Grace. Her voice was sharp, echoing through the woods. "Mother, stop hiding. Come out. You can't run forever." I clutched Thomas's hand. My children were closer than I thought. We crouched low, hiding behind thick brush as footsteps crunched nearby. Flashlights danced across the trees. Daniel's harsh voice followed. "She's weak. She can't have gone far. Spread out." Thomas squeezed my hand. "Follow me." Quietly. We crawled through the undergrowth, every twig snapping under my knees sounding like thunder. My breath shook, but I forced myself not to cry out. Then suddenly light. A flashlight beam swept across us. "There." Mark's voice roared. Thomas pulled me up. "Run." We broke into a sprint. My legs ached, my chest screamed, but fear gave me wings. Branches whipped at my face, but I didn't stop. Behind us, my children shouted, chasing, the sound of their fury filling the night. We burst out of the woods and into a clearing. Ahead stood a small farmhouse, Thomas's. Its windows glowed faintly. Safety was just a few steps away. But just as we reached the porch, Grace caught up. She hurled herself at me, knocking me to the ground. Her eyes blazed with hatred. "You should have died in that river," she spat. Her hands wrapped around my throat. I clawed at her wrists, gasping, the world spinning. "Elizabeth!" Thomas shouted. He yanked Grace back, throwing her off me. But Daniel and Mark arrived next, tackling him to the ground. The scene was chaos. My children attacking the only man protecting me. My hands scrambled across the porch until they found a fallen lantern. My mind screamed with one thought. I will not die tonight. With all the strength I had left, I smashed the lantern on the ground. Fire burst alive, flames licking the wooden boards. My children froze, startled. "Enough!" I roared, my voice shaking the night. "If you want me dead, then we all burn together." The fire grew, crackling fierce. Smoke curled into the air. My children's eyes widened in panic. They stumbled back, fear finally overtaking their rage. Thomas grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the flames. Together we staggered into the yard, coughing, choking, but alive. Behind us, the house burned bright against the dark sky. And in the glow of the fire, I saw it, the truth on their faces. Fear, shame, regret. For the first time, they looked less like my murderers and more like the frightened children I once raised. But it was too late. The bond between us had already died in that river. The neighbors rushed toward the fire, shouting, calling for help. The police sirens screamed again in the distance. And there I stood, 70 years old, bruised and broken but unbowed. My children had tried to kill me, but instead, they had lit a fire inside me. A fire that no river, no betrayal, could ever drown. I turned to Thomas, his arm steady around my shoulders. My voice cracked but was firm. They thought my survival was their nightmare. But the real nightmare is this. I'm alive. And I will make sure the world knows the truth. And so, dear listener, here is the lesson. The greatest betrayal often comes from those we trust the most, but survival, choosing life over fear, turns pain into power. Never let anyone write the end of your story. Sparkles, and that, my dear friends, is only the beginning. If you want to hear what happened next, don't just leave quietly. Subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's uncover the rest of this nightmare together.